Ever been to like Yellowstone? You know, those crazy hot springs there. Could anything even live in those?
Well, you might be surprised to learn that there's this whole kingdom of organisms called Archaea that thrive in those extreme conditions. It's
Yeah.
like they laugh in the face of what we consider habitable.
Archaea. I feel like I remember that from like way back in biology class.
Right.
But honestly, I always just lump them in with bacteria.
Totally understandable. For a long time, even scientists did the same thing. But as we started to, really dig deeper, we discovered that archaea are actually way different from bacteria.
Different how?
Well, they've got this completely unique biochemistry and genetics that really sets them apart. To put it in perspective, they're as different from bacteria as we humans are.
Whoa. Okay. So we're not just talking about a slightly different type of bacteria. We're talking about a whole other branch on the tree of life.
Exactly, a completely separate domain. And what makes them even cooler is that they can thrive in those insane environments we were talking about, like places with extreme temperatures, crazy acidity, high salinity, or even no oxygen at all. They're like the ultimate survivors.
It's kind of mind-blowing to think about these tiny things just hanging out in places where most life forms would just like instantly die. So spill the tea. What specific places are we talking about here?
Okay, so picture those boiling hot springs in Yellowstone. You know the ones. The water there is practically at boiling point, but some types of archaea are totally fine there. And then you've got those deep sea hydrothermal vents. They spew out this superheated water full of minerals and chemicals straight from the Earth's crust. Harsh, right? But archaea, they're all over it, even forming the foundation of whole ecosystems down there.
Okay, those definitely qualify as extreme.
Oh, there's more. What about the Dead Sea? Super salty, right? Most organisms wouldn't last a minute, but not archaea. There's a whole group called halophiles that actually need that salt to survive. They've got these special adaptations that allow them to basically pull water out of the air and stay balanced.
So it's not just heat then. They can also handle crazy levels of salt.
Oh, yeah. And some even live in volcanoes or piles of hot coal. They're incredibly diverse.
Seriously, volcanoes and hot coal, these archaea are tough.
No kidding. And did you know some even live deep inside rocks beneath the Earth's surface? It's all about their unique biology. For example, their cell membranes.
Hold on, they're what?
Cell membranes. They're made of these special lipids, different from the ones found in bacteria or us. And these special lipids, they're like a secret weapon, allowing archaea to live in those crazy environments.
We back up. Lipids, like fats and oils, right? What does that have to do with surviving in crazy heat?
Lipids are like fat molecules, and in cell membranes, they create this barrier that separates the inside of the cell from the outside world. But here's the thing about archaeolipids. Their structure is totally unique. They've got different kinds of bonds and branching patterns than the lipids in bacteria or eukaryotes.
Sure.
So that makes them way more stable at high temperatures. It's like a built-in heat shield that protects them from basically melting away.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just that they have lipids, it's that their lipids are like specially designed to withstand heat.
Exactly. And get this, those that live in the freezing cold, they've got different types of lipids that don't freeze up. It's all about adaptation. They've evolved to thrive wherever they are.
So they've got these superpowered lipids that let them handle both extreme heat and freezing cold. It's like they've got it all figured out. But I have to ask, why should we care? Are they just these like weird outliers? Or do they actually matter to us?
Great question. They might seem like just curiosities, but trust me, archaea are way more important than you might think. Like, they actually play a big role in things like biotechnology and different industries because they're unique adaptations. They have some pretty cool uses.
Okay, you've got my attention. Tell me more about that. How are we actually using archaea in the real world?
Well, remember those special enzymes we were talking about? The ones that can function under extreme conditions? Turns out they're super valuable tools.
Right, the enzymes that can handle crazy heat and all that. But how do we use them?
One of the biggest applications is in a technology I bet you've heard of, PCR, or polymerase chain reaction. It's used to make tons of copies of DNA from just a tiny sample.
PCR. Yeah, I've heard of that. It's used in all kinds of things like crime scene investigations and genetic testing and diagnosing diseases. But how does that connect back to archaea?
Well, a key ingredient in PCR is this enzyme called DNA polymerase. Its job is to copy the DNA strands, but there's a catch. The copying process needs high temperatures, like really high, which would normally destroy most enzymes.
So how do they get around that?
That's where archaea come in. Scientists found that some archaea that live in those crazy hot environments have a version of DNA polymerase that can take the heat. It was a total game changer for PCR.
Wait, so you're telling me that this tiny organism that lives in, like, boiling hot springs is the reason PCR works? That's insane.
It's a pretty amazing example of how understanding these, seemingly weird organisms can lead to huge advances. And because this special archaeal DNA polymerase can withstand the heat, we can automate the PCR process, making it way faster and more efficient.
Wow. So thanks to Archaea, we have this powerful tool that's changing medicine, forensics, archaeology. I had no idea they were so important.
And PCR is just one example. Archaeal enzymes are being used in other cool ways too, like in the food industry to break down sugars, or in textiles to process fibers. Their ability to function in those crazy conditions makes them super versatile.
It's mind-blowing that these organisms that live in such harsh places could be the key to solving problems and creating new technologies.
I know, right? And their unique biology doesn't just have implications for biotechnology. It also gives us clues about some of the biggest questions out there, like how life even began on Earth billions of years ago.
Okay, now we're talking. That's the kind of stuff that really gets me going. Tell me more about how Archaea connect to the origins of life.
Well, think about what we discussed earlier about early Earth. Super harsh environment, right? Lots of volcanic activity, no oxygen, crazy temperatures.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like those extreme environments where Archaea thrive today.
Exactly. And since archaea are so well adapted to those conditions, scientists think they might be descendants of those early life forms, like living fossils. Some even think that archaea, or something super similar to them, might have been the very first living organisms on Earth.
Whoa, hold on. So when we study Archaea, we might be looking at the ancestors of all life on Earth.
It's a real possibility. To figure out how life could have started in those early conditions, scientists do these experiments to try and recreate early Earth. You ever heard of the Miller-Urey experiment?
I think so. Didn't they basically create Earth's early atmosphere in a lab and then zap it with electricity to mimic lightning?
That's the one. And in that experiment, they created some of the basic building blocks of life, like amino acids and sugars, the stuff that makes up proteins and DNA.
So they made the building blocks of life in a lab in conditions like early Earth. That's amazing.
It is. And it supports the idea that life could have started from non-living matter in those harsh conditions.
Okay, so we've got Archaea living in extreme environments that look like early Earth, and we've got experiments showing that the building blocks of life could have formed in similar conditions. It's all coming together. But how do we go from those building blocks to a full-on living organism? That seems like a huge jump.
That's the big question. Scientists are still trying to figure out exactly how those early molecules formed the complex structures of life. But studying archaea is giving us some cool clues. For example, some researchers think that the special lipids in archaeal cell membranes were super important in the formation of the very first cells.
Interesting. So those special lipids might have helped create the first cell membranes. It makes sense. Cell membranes are key for separating the inside of a cell from the outside.
Exactly. It's like building a container for life's processes. And because archaeolipids are so different from those in bacteria and us, they might be a more ancient type of cell membrane structure.
So by studying Archaea and their unique features, we can get clues about how life might have started and evolved billions of years ago.
Exactly. It's like peeking into the past, exploring the very beginning of life's story. And it makes you wonder, if life could start in that kind of environment on Earth, could similar life exist on other planets with those same extreme conditions?
That's a really cool thought. If Archaea can thrive in the most extreme places on Earth, maybe there's life in those seemingly impossible places on other planets.
Totally. And speaking of extreme environments and looking for life beyond Earth, there's some awesome research happening right here in Canada that's teaching us even more about archaea and their role in these unique ecosystems.
Oh, tell me more.
Yeah.
I'm always down to hear about Canadian contributions to science. Where is this research happening?
Well, off the coast of British Columbia, there are these deep-sea hydrothermal vents. Remember those superheated, chemical-rich environments that shoot out from the Earth's crust?
Right, the ones that sound like they're straight out of an alien movie?
Exactly. A Canadian scientist, Dr. Verena Tunnicliffe, has been studying these vent ecosystems for years, using remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs, to get down there.
Whoa, ROVs! They're sending robots to these extreme places to study Archaea and other life forms.
Exactly. It's way too dangerous for humans to go down there, so these ROVs let us explore these hidden worlds and get data without risking anyone's safety.
That's incredible. What kinds of things is Dr. Tunnicliffe learning from these expeditions?
Her research is helping us understand how these vent ecosystems even form, how life adapts to those crazy conditions, and how they compare to other ecosystems on Earth. She's even found new species. It's cutting-edge exploration right in our backyard.
So cool. Hidden worlds teeming with bizarre life right off our
I
coasts.
know. It's amazing. And as we keep exploring the world of Archaea, both here and maybe even beyond, who knows what other secrets these extremophiles will reveal? They might help us understand not only where life came from, but also its potential out there in the universe.
Yeah, it really is amazing. These hidden worlds right here on Earth are just incredible. But, going back to what we were talking about before about life on other planets, well, if Archaea can thrive in those extreme conditions here, do you think there's a chance we could find similar life forms on other planets too?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something that astrobiologists are seriously looking into. There are places like Mars or some of the moons of Jupiter and Saturn that have conditions that might be kind of similar to early Earth or to some of the extreme environments we see today.
Right, like places with volcanic activity or extreme temperatures, maybe even oceans hidden under ice.
Exactly. And if Archaea can survive in those conditions here, it's not crazy to think that maybe, just maybe, there could be similar organisms out there, adapted to those specific environments.
It's wild to think about what life might actually look like out there.
Mhm.
I mean, we tend to think of life needing sunlight, moderate temperatures, liquid water, all that stuff. But Archaea show us that life can be way more adaptable than we think.
They really do. They've completely challenged our assumptions about what life needs to survive. And that opens up a whole new world of possibilities for what we might find out there.
It's almost like science fiction is becoming reality. Instead of finding little green aliens, we might find these microscopic extremophiles hiding in the most unexpected places.
It's true. The universe is full of surprises, and as we explore our own solar system and beyond, I think we need to be open to all kinds of possibilities. Life might not look like what we expect, and it might be hiding in places we never thought to look.
I'm definitely feeling more optimistic about finding life beyond Earth after this deep dive. It used to seem like such a long shot, but now I'm starting to think it's only a matter of time.
I feel the same way. And even if we never find alien life, the study of Archaea here on Earth has already been incredibly valuable. They're helping us understand the origins of life, create new technologies, and explore the very limits of what's possible.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the power of scientific curiosity and to the idea that sometimes the most amazing discoveries come from looking in the most unexpected places. So to wrap things up, what's the one big takeaway you'd like listeners to remember about Archaea?
I think the most important thing to remember is that Archaea are much more than just these weird organisms living in extreme environments. They're a fundamental part of life on Earth. And they have a huge impact on how we understand biology, biotechnology, and even the possibility of life beyond our planet.
That's a great way to put it. They've definitely opened my mind to a whole new way of looking at life. Thanks for taking us on this amazing journey into the world of Archaea.
You're very welcome. It's been my pleasure. And to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never underestimate the power of these tiny but mighty organisms. They might just hold the key to some of the biggest questions about life itself.